She kept waving that paper in my face and yelled, "This isn't your land anymore." But I just stood there, smiling. I knew something she didn't. I was standing in the middle of a dusty road that cut straight through what used to be my grandfather's ranch. Wide open fields, nothing but grass and the old oak tree at the edge. Now, out of nowhere, there were rows of almost finished houses, 96 of them, fresh paint, shiny roofs, even for sale signs hammered into the ground, all of it built without a single word to me. Karen, the self-appointed head of the HOA, stormed over in her heels like she owned the entire valley. "You're trespassing," she hissed. "We already told you, this whole block is part of Cedar Pines community now. You can't just walk in here." I couldn't help but laugh, though I kept it quiet. "Trespassing? On my own dirt?" I asked, kicking at the soil. She folded her arms, smirking. "Not yours anymore. We bought it from the county after it was declared unused. The deal's done. You can call whoever you want, it won't change a thing." For a second, I felt the same anger that had burned in me the day I first saw the bulldozers tearing through my grandfather's pasture. But I swallowed it down. No yelling. Not yet. "All right," I said, raising my hands like I was giving up. "Go ahead. Finish your houses. Build your fences. Do what you gotta do." Karen blinked, caught off guard. "That's the smartest thing you've said. Maybe you're not as dumb as you look." She spun on her heel and marched back to her shiny black SUV, muttering something about keeping an eye on me. As I watched the workers hammer away at what they thought was their dream neighborhood, I slid my phone out and opened an email. The subject line read, "Deed certified. Original owner confirmed." I smiled to myself. This was going to get interesting. A week later, the neighborhood was buzzing with activity. Trucks hauling gravel rolled in and out, workers carried stacks of lumber, and families even started visiting the model homes. Kids were already riding their bikes on the half-paved streets. Nobody had the slightest clue that they were standing on land that didn't belong to them. Karen, meanwhile, had upgraded her attitude from bossy to downright tyrannical. She walked around with a clipboard, barking at the construction crew like she was the mayor. I overheard her telling a young couple, "Don't worry about permits or zoning. I have everything under control. By the end of the month, all 96 homes will be move-in ready." I kept my distance, just watching. Every nail they hammered, every fence they built, it only worked in my favor. I wanted them to finish. The more they'd built, the bigger the explosion when the truth came out. But Karen wasn't done trying to push me out. That Friday, I woke up to the sound of a tow truck backing up to my gate. A bright orange paper was taped to my truck's windshield. "Vehicle illegally parked on HOA property will be removed at owner's expense." I walked out calmly and stood next to the driver as he was about to hook the chain. "You, sure you want to do that?" I asked. Karen came striding up from behind, sunglasses on, phone recording me. "Move aside! Your rusty truck is blocking our new community entrance. I'm giving you one chance to get it out of here before I call the cops." I raised an eyebrow. "Go ahead, call them. Tell them I'm parked in my own driveway." That made her hesitate for half a second, but then she doubled down. "You think you're clever. This is HOA property now, and we don't want your kind around here." Her words stung more than I expected. Not because of the insult, but because of the way the workers and buyers stared, like I was the intruder. I stepped closer so only she could hear me. "You're going to regret every word you just said." She smirked. "We'll see about that." By evening, my phone buzzed again. My attorney, Mr. Franklin, texted, "Got the court date, bring the certified deed. This will be fun." For the first time in weeks, I slept like a baby. The morning of the court hearing, I drove past the construction site just to take a look. Overnight, they'd put up the massive cedar pine sign at the entrance, with fancy stone pillars and fresh landscaping. Karen was there too, wearing a blazer like she was running for office, giving instructions to the landscapers. She noticed me slowing down and walked over with that same smug grin. "Better enjoy your last drive through here," she said. "Once the judge signs off, you'll be banned from this entire area. Trespassers don't get second chances." I kept my eyes on the road and just replied, "See you in court, Karen." Her grin slipped a little, but she quickly recovered. "You're wasting your time. We've already sold half these homes." When I got to the courthouse, Karen was already inside, flanked by two men in sharp suits, HOA board members, I assumed. They looked confident, even bored, like they were about to crush some petty complaint. Mr. Franklin leaned in and whispered to me, "They have no idea what's coming. Just keep quiet and let me handle the opening." The judge, an older man with sharp eyes, glanced over the documents the HOA's lawyer had presented. Karen sat up straighter and gave me a triumphant look as their lawyer said, "Your Honor, the land in question was declared unused and sold at a public auction. My clients purchased it legally and developed it in good faith. This man has no legal claim to it." Mr. Franklin calmly stood up, placed a thick folder on the desk, and said, "Your Honor, before we proceed, I'd like to submit this." Karen frowned as the judge flipped open the folder and pulled out a set of weathered documents sealed in plastic. The old county stamp was still visible. "These are the original property deeds," Franklin continued, "registered under my client's grandfather's name. The land was never abandoned, never sold, and taxes were paid in full every single year." A quiet gasp went through the courtroom. Karen shifted in her seat, but the HOA lawyer tried to brush it off. "Your Honor, that's irrelevant. The judge raised a hand to silence him. "If these documents are authentic, then everything built on this land was constructed without the true owner's permission." Karen's face went pale for the first time since I'd met her. I leaned back, folded my arms, and finally let a small smile show. "Told you," I whispered under my breath. The judge tapped the papers on his desk. "We'll need to verify this with the county records office immediately. Court will reconvene after confirmation." Karen avoided my gaze as she stormed out of the courtroom, her heels clicking like gunshots on the marble floor.
An hour later, the courtroom doors swung open again. Everyone shuffled back to their seats, but Karen came in slower this time. The confidence she wore like armor before was gone, her hair slightly out of place, her lips pressed thin. The judge cleared his throat. "The county has confirmed the documents. The original deed is valid. The land was never part of the auction, meaning all current construction stands on property owned by," he paused to glance at me, "Mr. Harris." For a moment, the whole room went silent. Even the HOA lawyers froze, as if they were trying to process what they'd just heard. Karen sprang up from her chair. "That can't be right! We were told—" The judge cut her off sharply. "You were told wrong, and it is your responsibility to ensure due diligence before breaking ground. Every single structure you built here was done without the landowner's consent. That makes this a matter of unlawful encroachment." Her voice cracked. "But we already sold half the homes." "That," the judge replied, "is now between you, your buyers, and your legal team. But as of this moment, Mr. Harris has the full right to demand removal of all structures or pursue damages." The HOA lawyers began arguing in hushed voices, but I stayed quiet. I just watched Karen's face as it shifted from anger to something closer to panic. When we stepped out of the courthouse, she followed me into the hallway. "You can't do this to us," she hissed. "Think of all the families who bought those homes." I stopped walking and faced her. "I told you to think about that before you stole my land. I gave you every chance to check the records. You wanted a fight? You got one." Her eyes welled up, but she held back the tears, clenching her jaw. "We'll appeal. You won't get away with this." I didn't even bother replying. I just handed her my lawyer's card and said, "Tell your buyers to call that number. We'll figure out how to settle legally." As I stepped outside, I caught sight of the sprawling development in the distance. 96 houses, all standing on my grandfather's pasture. For a second, I felt a pang of guilt for the families, but it faded when I remembered the arrogance and the threats that Karen had thrown at me. Justice wasn't always neat, but it was justice. That night, as I sat on the porch of my cabin overlooking the land, I thought about something my grandfather used to say. Land isn't just dirt, it's history. It remembers who really owns it. Now, it was back where it belonged.